All right, we're going to get started. So you are here for a webinar on designing for conversions. It's all about e-commerce, just so we're clear, and how to design your sites for conversion. And if we're going to start anywhere, we need to start with one thing, and that is that this stuff is hard, right? So we could do not just a webinar, we could not just spend an hour, we could spend 10 hours, 20 hours, 50 hours going over really long checklists. The reality is it's not just about code. It's not just about design, right? There are psychological dynamics and there are tests because every single thing is different for every different store. What you're selling and to who you're selling will have an impact on how you drive conversions, right? And so there is no like, we got there, we made it, right? It is always a work in progress. But if there's one reason that stores don't convert, right? Way ahead of everything else, it's speed, right? And we're getting right into the core of the content this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at. Speed is without question the core of the issue, right? Because if they're not on your site, right? If people have left, then there is no conversion, right? And so one of the things we want to talk about today is the speed of your site. So let me reference a 2017 Akamai study, right? One of the most important things that came out of the study and new for me was the fact that if you're moving between pages in a store and it takes you longer than 2 seconds, you can see a 51% decrease in session length. Now, if you think about your own life and all the shopping you've done online, that probably resonates, right? You probably go, actually, that's true. If I'm clicking and I'm going to the next page and then I'm clicking and going to the next page, if I get to the content of the category that I'm in and now I want to drill in deeper and it just keeps taking a long time, what happens? You just leave. You're like, I'll go look at this somewhere else, right? At the same time, it's not just about the big delays, like 2-second delays, 100 milliseconds, right? Can drop conversions by 7%. Bounce rates, right? If you don't know what a bounce rate is, it's people that come and land on a page and leave from the same exact URL, right? Which bouncing isn't necessarily bad if you are not in an e-commerce dynamic, right? I mean, if you are asking a question like, how do I use Photoshop to crop an image, right? You go to Google, you type it, you see several results, you click on one of those results, right? And you go to a page and the page tells you exactly what to do. Do you need to browse around anymore? No, you just literally go, thank you, leave the page. But in e-commerce, it's rare, right? That you're not gonna go from the product into a cart or checkout, payments. There's going to be multiple pages. So bounce rates, right, are a big deal in e-commerce because we don't want people to land on the product page, go, ooh, I like that, but then, oh, I'm out of here, right? And so when you can bring your speed down, right, under 1.2 seconds, you're going to drop those bounce rates dramatically, right? People are going to hang around the site better. And the last piece we saw out of this study was 2.7. 2.7 is the magic number, right? It's the same number that Google uses when Google evaluates your store and says, is this store customer friendly, right? It's a fundamental notion of, are you trying to deliver value to customers? And if they, and you know, they're not going to browse your store, look at all your content, figure things out. They simply evaluate speed and go, hey, if it's under 2.7, you're customer friendly. If it's over 2.7, you're not customer friendly. Here's the thing, right? We did an analysis of our own. We went and grabbed all the domains that are at woocommerce.com/showcase. Now, this is just one platform, the WooCommerce platform, but we went and there were 566 domains there, right? And then we did the first thing, we just checked to see how many of them are still using WooCommerce, right? And 60 some of them, right? 64 of them weren't. So then it was 502, right? And we said, okay, there's 502 sites that are still using WooCommerce. And then we ran performance tests on every one of them, right? Just give me a sense of how long it takes to load the store page. 477 of them. 477 of them took more than 4 seconds to load, right? And you go, oh, if the magic number is 2.7, right? and you're sitting there at 4.4, and there were a whole bunch that were more than 10 seconds to load, right? You go, and that's on the shop page. Oh, that's a problem, right? So the Akamai study says we got to pay attention to speed, right? Because speed has a direct correlation to conversion, right? Now, what makes all this harder? Amazon, right? Because in the old days, right, the first e-commerce site I built was in 96, 97, I think, right around 96, 97. It took us a year, right? 3 people, $100,000. Also, we could get authorized.net, connect to a web page, and we could actually make money, right? In those days, it was hard work, and there weren't a lot of other solutions out there. But today, everybody, like, you probably have customers. If you're a developer, if you're a designer, if you're an agency or a freelancer, you have customers who are like, hey, I have $500. Can you build me all the features of Amazon, right? And you're like, no, I can't, right? You don't have an Amazon budget, but all of us have an Amazon experience, right? And all of us have Amazon expectations. And that is challenging, right? Because people are going to Amazon all the time. They're looking at images. When they move their mouse over the image, it zooms. They have lots of images. They have tons of reviews, right? We're all getting managed by a certain set of expectations. And that's hard, right? That's hard because your customers, if you're building sites or if you're a store owner, right, your customers are having certain expectations set for them by Amazon. So that makes it all the more important that we pay attention to this stuff. I don't want to spend a ton of time on studies, but this one was another interesting one. This was the Radware 2015 study. And what it did was it looked at Alexa data, but for shopping, for stores, right? And we're talking about the biggest stores. And you can go look at their rankings and their data, but they looked at the top 100 stores. And they said, okay, what about, how fast till we get that first bite and the ability to interact with the store? And then what does it take when it's fully loaded, right? And these stores, we're talking about the top 100 stores, were loading in over 15 seconds, right? Fully loaded. Page sizes were big, and the number of resources, right? The number of outbound calls to pull this stuff in. Man, it's crazy, right? And then you get into the actual content, right? The analysis. This is what Radware did. And they looked at it and they said 60% of the content is images, right? And most of those 100, and we're talking about like the Best Buys of the world, right? We're talking about everything, the top 100 stores online, and most, right? More than 85% of them were not using any image optimization techniques at all, right? And you go, okay, what this means, right, is speed is a design problem, right? It's about designing with constraints. It's about paying attention to, if we want to drive conversions, how do we think about speed and how do we think about design in the context of performance so that people hang around, the session length isn't shortened, people are navigating through, they're not bouncing out. We need to be thinking about all of this, right? And so if there's one tip to take away today, right? It's compress your images, right? Today, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing that. And there's a whole bunch of products that help you do this, right? There are solutions that are online as a SaaS, and then they give you a plugin like TinyPNG. It's the one we use at Liquid Web. And what happens is when you upload images, it runs out to the SaaS. It does the compression, brings it back, and just drops it into your media folder. And you're like, this is great, right? For WordPress, that's fantastic. And WooCommerce and other stores like that, you go, this is fantastic. It's a combination. Kraken.io, right? If you want to say release the Kraken every week, Kraken.io does that, right? Imagify does that. There are some that are on your desktop, like ImageOptin, right? So if you're working with a whole bunch of a catalog of images, right, you can do this. Now, why is this so important? Because whether or not you're the photographer, whether you've hired a photographer, right, the photographers are using high-end equipment, right? These are cameras that can do 20, 30, 40 megapixel images. So when they send you the Dropbox folder, they're thinking, I want to give you the best images that I have. So you will end up getting images that could be 5, 6, 7 megabytes each. But even a 2 megabyte image, right, is a tremendous number of pixels for what you're going to show in 600 by 600 pixels, right? 1200 by 1200 pixels. It's unlikely that you need all that. And so using solutions like this, Photon, one of the ones I forget a lot because it's just a feature in the Jetpack plugin, but Photon is a full, not only a full solution for CDN, right? But it will help you with your image compression as well. And so you're like, wow, there's a whole lot of solutions in here. Some of them free, like Photon, some of them that have some cost. And you look through this list and you go, this is a no-brainer. I do this one step and all of a sudden my page weight, right? The amount of time it's going to take to load that page is going to change because my images are not super heavy, right? And when we're talking about images, right, one of the things we should be talking about, right, is how you use those images. A lot of us, we get cameras, if we're doing it ourselves or we hire someone, we put the product right center stage and then we just take a picture of the product. And the reality is for all of us, right, when we're talking about, remember I said conversion is not just about pure code or pure design, it's also psychology. Well, when we want to trigger people's brains, right, we want to capture them in, and when we take these pictures, we want to capture the ability of showing our products in use. We want to show them with how people are engaging and interacting. It does so many different things all at the same time, right? First of all, size, right? You have a relative notion of size when you're able to look at a picture in context, which is not the same thing when it's just sitting in front of you. I fly a lot and I keep looking through the magazines at the, sitting in front of me. And I was opening up one of those magazines that has all the shopping, all the gifts and all the things you can do. And several trips over, I kept seeing this little R2-D2 robot. And so I'm talking to a buddy of mine who also flies, and I'm like, hey, have you seen this thing? He goes, yeah, it's great. I was going to buy it. I'm like, I know, it's awesome. Can you imagine like R2-D2 moving around? He goes, it's 3 or 4 inches tall. I went, I had no idea, because all I had was a photo of R2-D2. And you go, no, you need to look at it in context, right? When we talk about, selling something like bows, right? Whether they're on your ears or in your cars, what looks better? What connects to you better? A picture of car speakers or this woman who is driving the top down, wind blowing through her face, right? And I live in San Diego. The weather always looks like this, except today when it's raining. But almost every day of the year, right? I could roll the top down, drive around. That's a great photo, right? That's a fantastic photo. And it says, hey, you're going to experience something incredible with Bose because I'm engaged with that photo. It's very different than if they just go, here's the picture of car speakers. And by the way, right, if I'm looking at speakers, imagine that I have Bose speakers next to someone else's speakers, next to someone else's speakers, and they all look the same. There's no way that I'm going to drive towards the conversion of that product when I don't have anything wooing me or inviting me to connect to it emotionally. And so when we take pictures in context and when we take pictures in use with people engaged and happy, we have a much better chance of driving conversion. Now, one of my favorites is a website called Harry's. And I don't know if you are one of those people who uses an electric shaver. I use a manual razor, and I love these guys, right? And one of the things that's really interesting about the design, if you look here on the left side, you'll see the very long page. And one of the things that you catch right away when you're coming to this page is that this product purchase here doesn't have a ton of detailed information about the product, right? I'm choosing quantity and color, but all the rest of it, right, is all the way down at the bottom of this page. If you take a look down here, right, they've pushed all the details down so that you can engage with the photos, right? The photo of the product. And by the way, as you change these colors, the product images change, but also look at the razors and everything else. And this is one of the things that happens, right? When you're looking at products and you have a lot of images and good images and large images, all of a sudden you can start answering your own questions, right? And we'll talk about more of that in just a second. So when, and this is that second, when we think about the questions we have about products, right? Sometimes it's just a really good image that'll answer it. I have a whole bunch of audio equipment sitting on my desk. It's equipment that makes this microphone just sound better for you. And it doesn't matter whether I'm really close to the microphone or if I'm pulled further back. And to use that equipment, I need a preprocessor and I need a digital converter. And so I'm talking to an expert because I don't know any of that stuff. I'm talking to an expert and I ask him, well, what kind of cables do I need? Right. And as I ask the question about cables, he's like, I don't know, let's go. And we go to Amazon and we go look up the product. And then we go look at some of the images and we flip it around on the back and we see immediately, oh, it's an XLR cable. Okay, then I know what I have to buy, right? I don't have to talk to anyone. I don't have to ask any questions. Just by looking at photos, I can resolve the questions I have. This is also true for shoes, right? And I have a high arch. There are shoes out there that these days, right? And Under Armour, by the way, is a fantastic e-commerce site if you want to spend time looking at what they're doing. But there are shoes that no longer have laces, right? Like even in the place where they put laces, those laces are there for just appearance, right? Because what happens is the shoe itself has kind of like a sock, and you can see it here, right? This is where you're going to slide your foot in and that's it. So if that thing doesn't open wide enough, it's not going to be a useful shoe. Whereas with the laces thing, right, you could pull the tongue back, open it up wider, and slide your foot in. How do I know if this shoe is going to work for me, right? Well, I have a 360-degree video and I have images from all over, including a top view, right? This is a fantastic way to help me answer my own questions, right? Under Armour does that very, very well. It also, right, I get the options of choosing, colors as I'm moving through this. I have sizes, but here's that true fit piece, right? And we're seeing this more and more with clothing, right? This notion of, hey, do these shoes or do these t-shirts or jackets, do they run big? Do they run true to size? Do they run small, right? That helps you make your own decision about what you're trying to buy, right? So Under Armour is a fantastic site. We're going to see a couple more things from it, but the use of 360-degree and high-res images from a lot of different perspectives allows customers to answer their own questions, which obviously is a really big deal. Now, before I wrap up on images, I got to tell you about one of my favorite uses of images ever, right? And it's a problem I face, but it's a problem a lot of people face when we're talking about buying clothes. We were just talking about the notion of, does it fit true to size or small, or whatever. That's still not always enough to figuring out, what size should I buy, right? To make it fit. I'm a big guy, right? I want to make sure that this thing's going to fit. So my favorite website ever, excuse me, is a place called Busted Tees, right? And here's what Busted Tees did. They took a bunch of different people, right? And then they took those people and they took their information, right? So we know Andrew's weight, we know his height. They have men and women of different heights and sizes, weights. And so instead of just showing me this, right? This is the chart most people show on a clothing site. If they even have a sizing guide, they'll say, oh, well, okay, take a look in here, and they'll show you how to measure whatever. I don't know about you. I have no measuring tape that sits around my desk when I'm buying stuff online, right? It's not like I can go, oh, well, now that you've told me how to measure myself, let me go do that. And the likelihood of me measuring myself accurately is probably not going to be great either. So I don't have these little tape measures around that can help me with this. So this whole part, while I understand that, stores do it, not very helpful. This, on the other hand, is incredibly helpful, right? Because I pick the person that I feel most connected to, and I go, okay, let's see what it looks like. And then I see the shirt on him as it will look, right? And if you're looking at this site and you're going, okay, that's not, this, when I finally look at, the 3X on this guy, that's probably, if you're a larger person and you're going, well, I just don't know if I do the 1X, 2X, or 3X, look at how this visually just tells us, okay, well, what look do I want, right? Do I want this look, which is a little tight up here, but it's going to be okay, right? Do I want a little more breathability, or do I want it to look like my pajama shirt, right? You get to decide, right? And that's an incredible way to use photos in such a way that it helps solve the problem. What's the core of the problem? We want a conversion, right? In order for there to be a conversion, we have to make our list of what are the things that stop people from buying. And one of the things when we're talking about clothing is knowing whether or not this shirt's going to fit, or whether or not I need to buy, you know, the 2X and the 3X, right? And then figure out which one fit. Like, that's all a mess. And you just go, forget it. I'll just deal with it later, right? But if you're extra small or extra large, right, you're going to be in a place where you're like, yeah, sizing is an issue. And the truth is, different clothing that you want to buy have different ways of sizing because of the different manufacturers. So this is a known problem. And the guys at Busted Tees go, yeah, we know it's a known problem. And if we want to resolve that problem, we're going to use imagery in a particular and innovative way so that we can get to that conversion. Now I look at this and I go, I know exactly which way I want to look. Click, buy, move on from there, right? And it's not just about images, right? It's also videos, right? If you can see the video of me talking, you likely see a wall behind me. This is a relatively recent addition to my office. It is a wood panel wall, and I really wanted one of these, right? I really wanted one. I haven't put anything up yet, but I really wanted one of these walls. And so I was like, okay, this is great. Like, how do I get it? So I talked to my buddy, and my buddy said, oh, here's what you do. It's really easy. You go to the back of a supermarket. You're going to find these pallets. You're going to take them back to your, take them back to your house in the backyard, right? And we're just going to tear off all the wood pallets and take them apart. And then we're going to lay them out. And then we're going to take a big chain. And we're going to beat them on the chain, beat them with a chain, and lay them out in the sun so that we weather them. And then we're going to go to the store and get several stains. Then we're going to stain them. Then we're going to cut them different sizes. We're going to beat them again, let them get weathered with that stain on. And then we're going to bring them in the house. Now we're going to want to put a big board up on your wall so that we protect the wall. And then we're going to attach these boards all to that big board on the wall. And I'm like, no, like everything about that story was wrong. I don't have a chain. I don't know how to beat wood with a chain. I don't know how to pick the right stains that'll match. I'm not interested in burning several weekends of doing this and waiting. I don't have a backyard that's going to let me just lay wood everywhere. And that's going to be a problem for my dog and for my kids. I don't want to put a big piece of plywood on this wall. That's insane, right? I don't know how to do that. That's just a lot of work, right? So I talked to my other buddy. My other buddy said, oh no, it's no problem. You go to Home Depot, you buy a bunch of stuff, we bring it over and we'll just drill it straight in. It's not nearly as hard as you think. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So I start Googling, right? And I find stickwood. Stickwood is amazing because, first of all, it's super, super thin. So it's not heavy, right? Second of all, you tell it, this little calculate square foot, you tell it how big your wall is, and they tell you exactly how many boxes, like they automatically determine the boxes. But then, as I'm watching all this, right, I'm watching all these videos. And the videos not only show me the product, right? They show me how to install. And it turns out it's super easy because each one of these super thin veneers, if you will, this is real reclaimed wood, but it has a veneer to it, or it's super thin and they sliced it. This real reclaimed wood that's super thin, has a backing to it. And on the back, there's stickers. You just peel the stickers and you push it against the wall. This whole wall was done in less than a day, right? And it wouldn't happen, right, without me watching these videos. And you go, yeah, this is the perfect way. You'll notice on this site, right, inspiration. Inspiration closes deals, right? When you're talking about conversion, you have several questions, right? We were talking about the questions on sizing, but on stuff like this, on anything where you have to assemble it, or you have to build it, or you have to deploy it, install it, the question is, am I skilled enough to pull this off? Right? That's the core of the question. And that's the one we're asking all the time. And do I know enough to make it look good? So when you go to Stickwood and you start clicking through inspiration, you'll see how other people have done it. And you go, ooh, that's great. Then you go into products and you pick one and it has all these videos that show you exactly how to do it. And you go, oh, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, I could totally do that. Right? So we've talked about images. Video is another big deal. And video can be instructional like this, but video can also tell your backstory, right? So this is backcountry, and backcountry, if you're into, hiking and adventuring and that stuff, right? Backcountry is your kind of place. But in order to convince you to be kind of committed to them, right, they use video to tell you their story. And when you watch this, right, by the time you're done watching this video, you're like, I'm buying everything from Backcountry, right? And it's not just Backcountry. There's several companies that do this where they connect you to their mission, their intent, why they do what they do, how they source their stuff, how they create and design their products. And by the time you're done, you go, okay, if I had all the money in the world, I want everything they sell. But right now I'm going to start with one, and I'm going to keep coming back and buying more. And you go, that's exactly what they want you to do, right? They're using video to connect with you on an emotional level, not to show you how to use their product, but to tell you why you should choose them, right? Amidst all the other noise and all the other companies, they use video to tell their story, right? Now, the other thing I really like about Backcountry is when you get to their pages, they tell you immediately, right? Here's how much you have to spend, $50 to get free 2-day shipping. And all of us have gotten accustomed to free shipping, right? That's what we want, right? And you go, okay, so I just have to hit the $50 bar, right? And that's good news, right? When it tells you this is what it's going to take, you go, now I'm prepped for it. On top of which, right, if you join their email list, you get 10% off, right? So they're offering a coupon. And let's be clear, coupons work, right? Coupons function very, very effectively in terms of conversion. But notice what they're doing, right? They're saying, hey, you got to give me your email, right? Even if it's an email you don't check all the time, you got to give me your email, because while I want to give you this coupon, I also want to know who you are. I want to engage with you and follow up, right? And so you go, okay, free shipping and an offer for a coupon. This is good. If I've watched that video, I'm already predisposed or primed to say yes. And now they're saying, well, let me layer on some more stuff, right? If you spend $50, or $55, we'll take 10% off to 50, and we'll still give you your free 2-day shipping. And you go, I like that, right? These guys are Kind Snacks, right? And they do this very similarly, except they don't just do it for first-time people, right? So you can come back and buy a second and third time, whatever. If you want 15% off, right, they'll collect information from you. They'll collect email, or they'll do little surveys, but they'll collect data from you in order to give you a new coupon code, right? And you go, that's great. They're not tying you to just that first visit. They're saying, we understand coupons work. Also, we understand that very large images work, right? We want to connect with you. We want to know who you are, and we want to keep bringing you back, right? And this becomes very powerful because all of us get conditioned to saying, yeah, I want to buy, but I really will only buy if I get a coupon. And so then they're like, well, we'll just do a little exchange here. You give me some information, I'll give you a coupon. So if you're going to do these offers, one of the things I'm going to tell you right off the bat, right? Even though we say coupons work, but you have to test them, and you have to, you want to create hypothesis for what's going to work, and then you want to evaluate how they'll work, because the reality is how you pitch someone is going to be really different based on who they are and how they've interacted with your store. And it's not a one size fits all, right? So for example, if I'm selling clearance stuff, right? I know that's going to be great for people who are price conscious, right? But it may not be great for people who are super repeat buyers, because they are seeing that the stuff you're selling is the old stuff. It's the stuff on the way out. It's the stuff that hasn't sold forever. That's not necessarily going to be what motivates them, right? On the flip side, telling them what's new, right? Like, hey, this is the latest stuff. And because you are someone who's made several purchases with us, I'm going to give you a discount, but that discount's only to the new stuff. I want you buying the newest and latest stuff, right? And then of course, if people are like, they're browsing around, they're getting ready to go, then you can do the whole, hey, give me a little bit of information, I'll give you 10% off on your next visit, right? So there are different ways to use coupons to help drive that conversion, but it comes down to understanding the customers, right? It comes down to understanding the segments that are on your site. And there are ways to do that, right? That's not the topic of this particular webinar, but we will be doing another webinar next month. And my gut guess is we'll talk a lot more about segmentation, right? Behavioral activity on a site and segmentation, and then how to use that segmentation to do this very thing, how to drive different offers to different people based on what they've, based on their purchase history and what they're doing on your site, right? But you want to test all those coupons we're talking about. You want to test them. Make sure that you have a good idea. Now, we've gone through a lot of stuff in terms of helping you with conversion, but maybe one of my most favorite things at a store like Under Armour is how they do product reviews, right? I don't know if you're anything like me. When I go to Amazon, I skip all the stuff that the manufacturer has written about their product. I skip all that and I get to the reviews. And when I get to the reviews, I even skip most of the positive reviews. I'm reading the negative reviews to see if it's something I can handle, right? If I'm looking at a toaster and someone says, well, this toaster doesn't have Bluetooth, so 1 star. I read that and I go, yeah, that's not a deal breaker for me. Okay, so I'm still good, right? But if I read another one, it goes, this doesn't have a setting for, how dark you want your bread. I go, oh, okay, that's a deal breaker. I'm not buying this product, right? So I punt to the negative stuff. What Under Armour's doing in reviews is awesome for so many different reasons. Right off the bat, right? We all see the whole, star rating. That makes sense, right? But they're doing a review on multiple factors, and that is a best practice. If you can do it on sizing, on comfort, on performance, or on anything else that you have going on for your particular product, this notion of being able to give a more well-rounded review predicated on the attributes of your product, that's fantastic. On top of which, right, they show that for each different product, right? But look at what's on the left here, right? They tell you about the person who's making that recommendation, right? This is a avid male, middle-aged person, right? Who, could have been like a volleyball player or a runner or whatever. Of course, their review is going to be contextualized by who they are. And so showing that to me, not just giving me some name, but showing me, okay, this is the information about the person. Take that into context. And then when I want to do a search on all those reviews, I can go through, hey, show me the shortest ones or the longest ones. Show me the ones that have the highest or the lowest ratings. Show me the ones that introduce their own photos. Show me all sorts of different kinds of reviews, right? You go, that is fantastic, because that's what helps me close the deal. I read some of these things and I go, okay, you know what? I'm ready to buy, right? So again, when we talk about conversion, sometimes it's not the actual the photos, the layout, the structure and design of your page. Sometimes it's just how you're managing the content and how you are designing the structure for that content, so that obviously when someone says click write a review, you're going to collect several things from them that will help your reviews be more effective, right? And one of the things Under Armour does, which also Apple does and several others do, Amazon does, is this notion of letting people ask questions and then letting other people answer them. They're creating a community here. But again, it allows me to get my questions answered before I want to, before I want to make a purchase, right? So here's that question. We were talking about the sock liner. Do you still wear socks with this or not, right? And you could see, like, does it run smaller for that, right? Is there an issue, right? Here's what is the shoe width, right? Can I take the intersole out so I can put my own in? These are great questions that other people can answer, so that I can come in and just read through it and go, yep, this is good for me. I'm ready to do it. So we've talked about images, we've talked about videos, we've talked about discounts, we've talked about reviews. But if there's one thing that I would tell you about conversions, right? One last note that I would give you is learn to tell stories better. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you this by way of illustration by showing you how Amazon sells a $600 watch, right? So this is a $600 watch. You will notice that it's going to give me the image, right? In this case, only a single image, right? The title, the price, some variations that are cheaper, which I'm not sure I would have done. It'll do the whole, hey, there's only 2 left in stock, right? And then some details and whatever. And in this particular case, not a lot of reviews, not a lot of, you'll see here, only 20 reviews and 4 answered questions. So there are watches on there that have hundreds of reviews and tons of questions. This particular one didn't have a lot of that, right? So you go, okay, this is how they're selling. And you go, all right, I get it. And then you go to a company like Shinola, right? And when you go to their comment, this is not, you know, this page is not the, this is not the, you know, like all the watches. This is a specific product watch, right? So you'll see here, right, the breadcrumbs, it's the Runwell, and it's the Runwell Chrono 47mm, right? And you go, okay, it's got a whole series of photos. It has the name and the price and an ability to add to cart, right? That's at the top of this page right away. And you go, okay, well, if that's it, I think I like Amazon better, right? But then you're like, hold on, right? Let me tell you a little about this watch, right? And it tells me some of the watch information. And I go, oh, that's good. And it says, no, hold on. If you scroll down a little more, let me get you some of the details, right? Plus, I can show you any of the specs. Plus, I can show you reviews and the purchase guarantee from buying from this store, right? But you keep going down, right? And you go, let me tell you about the movement. The movement is the technology inside the watch that keeps it moving. And so it doesn't just tell you a little about it. It has a video. And you can click this video and watch it. And you go, wow, okay, that's interesting. Okay, so this is a hand-assembled movement in Detroit, right? US made. And you go, that's interesting, right? And then it says, well, let me tell you a little about the casing, right? Stainless steel, and look at that beautiful image. And you go, oh, that's great. You keep scrolling and you're like, we haven't even talked about the face yet. Let me tell you about the dial, right? And it goes through and explains more of that. And right when you think, okay, is there anything more? They're like, oh yeah, we haven't even told you yet about the strap. And here's a video about the strap too that you can watch. And you go, wow, right? And this is cut and sewn in America, right? So they're going with a theme here, right? This is all handcrafted and handmade here in the US of A. And you go, that's awesome. Wait, we haven't told you about our box, right? Let me tell you about the box. And here's a video on how to, see how we make this box. And you're like, this is insane, right? This is incredible. As you walk through this, you're going to finally get to the, hey, here are the other things you might like, right? The other products, but you've now been going through this entire process. You've been going through this process, right? To get convinced on that product. So, you may or may not decide to choose any of these others. And what do we take away from this? Well, first of all, people do scroll. If there's a reason to scroll, people do, right? Long pages are fine. The other thing to note is that Shinola is the only one in this comparison that's actually telling you a story, right? And that an educated customer is an engaged one, right? The more I know about this product, the more I know how it's made and all this backstory behind it, the more interested I become. And that helps with conversion. But before we say, hey, Shinola is the winner and we should only buy watches from there, I found that watch at 2 a.m. I don't know what I clicked on that went to somewhere that went to that page. And then as I went through that page, I'm like, this is amazing. But then I tried to go back later and I couldn't find that exact same watch, right? Unless I look by the specific name. But if I'm just browsing around, I don't find it again, because Shinola is worried about making sure that you have a really great story when you're on the page. But what Amazon really understands is the need for visual and content hierarchies to help you find what you're looking for. And I can find products on Amazon several times over without ever knowing their name, right? When I go back to Amazon and look for a watch, I can find that watch often by the way in which I describe it, right? I go, okay, first of all, I always pick Prime, right? And then it was over $200, and the band was leather, and it was I remember all my watches are over 40 millimeters, so let me click that one, right? And the dial color was silver, right? And by the time I've clicked through enough of these, boom, I'm like, there it is again, right? So Amazon's really good about helping us understand hierarchy and content that way, evaluating it so that we can find these things over and over again. So I promised you at the beginning, at the top of the hour, I promised you this checklist, right? This is just one checklist. When we're talking about conversion, there's a lot of different things you can add. We haven't talked about things like, you can find tons of articles that'll tell you about your shop, your cart experience, and showing that, you have a refund policy, and putting the little logos of Visa and other, like there's lots of little things you can do. This is the structure of of this particular presentation is to walk through these things, right? It's all about images. It's all about image compression. It's paying attention to speed. It's using videos effectively. It's really doing work to get good reviews in play, creating that community where people are answering each other's questions, learning how to tell effective stories, educating your customers, and creating the content and visual hierarchies to allow people to come back over and over again. Do these things, right? And I believe that you will end up with a very effective store that drives for conversions, all right? So my name is Chris Lema. You can find me on Twitter at Chris Lema. I'm the VP of Products over at Liquid Web. And this is not a, this is a no pitch zone. We're not doing, product pitches. But if you're thinking about, or you're running a WooCommerce store, if you care about speed and you want to try a platform that we've designed that is specifically for speed to drive those conversions, then you can email me at chris.lema@liquidweb.com. I'll send you a coupon. You can decide if you want to check that out or not. We can go back and forth on email to talk about whether or not you want to, get a demo or anything like that. But again, this presentation webinar is not about pitching. It's just about talking through how to help you think about conversion and designing your site in the constraints of that performance dynamic. But here's a way to get a hold of me and a way to get a coupon if you're interested in that. And so with that, I am going to open it up for questions. And if you have the GoToWebinar control panel up in front of whatever screens you have, you should be able to see a little section called questions and be able to write there so that it'll pop up and I'll see them. I'll answer any questions we have through the rest of this hour. I'm also looking on Twitter in case any of you have asked questions on Twitter. All right, so one of the questions was, what's the name of the WordPress plugin I was talking about that supports Photon, right? Which is does some image work as well as a image CDN. That plugin is called Jetpack. Jetpack, it's one word. The pack P is not capitalized. And Jetpack is a free plugin that are, it's a free plugin that includes lots of little mini plugins or mini features, and one of them is Photon. So you can check that out. Another question we're seeing is, hey, our sites are currently hosted on Liquid Web. Do I need a different setup? If your site is hosted on Liquid Web, but you're not using our managed WordPress, then you're probably not getting our image compression automatically for you. And if it's not on managed WooCommerce hosting, then you're not getting the architecture for high performance, right? So those are things that you may want to talk. You can follow up, send me an email. We'll get you connected to some people if you want to look at pricing for upgrading and changing. All right. One of the questions is external feeds, right? Can often compromise load time. Absolutely right, right? We didn't talk about external libraries, external calls, but that's absolutely right. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have the least amount of calls going in to slow down your site. So if you're using ads and Facebook pixels and Google pixels and integrations with other places, you'll see, right? There's just a whole bunch of outbound JavaScript calls. And where those are on the page is going to have an impact on load time, right? Because those can be, if you load them up at the top of the page, essentially the rest of your page will wait until those things finish. And so you don't want that, right? You want to move them to the bottom, but you also, you may want to do it asynchronously so they're non-blocking. So getting a developer to help you with that, there are a couple of plugins that also help with that. Auto Optimize, which I think is actually spelled auto, and the O of auto is the beginning of optimize. Auto Optimize is a plugin that will help with some of that. but yeah, you want to be really judicious about what libraries and what calls, outbound calls, what resources you're calling, because that will slow down your site dramatically, right? You want to pay attention to that. Sometimes people just put the automatic integration to things like Twitter and Instagram. Just they pull down a plugin and they just load it in. The trick with a store, right, is every single thing you have on that store should be purposeful, and every purpose should be driving towards conversion. So if you have things that are just like, oh, I thought it'd be nice to have, get rid of it. Get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. Focus on driving a conversion, and then you can start figuring out what I want to layer in from there. All right. Wondering what's the biggest mistake that shop owners make when setting up their stores? Wow, there's so many to pick from here, but biggest mistake maybe is thinking that the core of getting a store live is configuring your store platform, right? So whether you're talking about WooCommerce or Shopify or BigCommerce or Magento, whatever, you think, oh, all I have to do is get the configuration of the settings ready, and then I don't have to worry about anything. Nope. It's all about managing your audience, right? So prepping them before the store, content on the store to bring them to it, right? Most stores, right? 49% of a store's traffic comes from Google, right? Which means it's not just coming to your product page, it's coming to all the content you're creating. So thinking about launching of a store, thinking about setting up a store as more than just configuring the settings page is maybe one of the biggest mistakes people make, right? If you have a new store, right? Another question, and you don't have ratings or reviews, should you show it, right? So what I normally do, I'll just give you my particular take, is I turn off ratings and reviews. And then as people buy things, I solicit them directly for ratings and reviews. And then before I turn it back on, I use an importing plugin that brings in all those reviews into those products so that when I turn it on, products have reviews, right? So I collect it manually before I turn them on, right? All right. How do we know the right story to tell in order to educate and engage our customers? That's a great question. And one of the things you want to do is talk to people, right? If I'm selling watches, I want to talk to people who buy watches. I want to go, hey, what's your, like, what are you thinking about? What are you deciding? And the more I talk to people, the more I figure out, what questions I should be answering, and that helps me shape the story, right? I want to shape the story in such a way that every question they thought they had, by the time I'm done with the story, they go, oh, that makes sense, right? What's the best plugin for reviews that meets some of your or most of my suggestions? So it's really two different dynamics, right? You can use the reviews that are in, if you're using WooCommerce, for example, you can use the reviews that are right there. You don't need another plugin for that. Though there is a Reviews Pro that WooCommerce sells that has some additional features. The real issue is you need another plugin that does the importing of the reviews, right? So that you can collect them externally, and then when you have enough, import them in so you can turn it on and show them, right, to people. Would you recommend the WP Smush plugin for image optimization? Actually, that one's a touch and go in terms of how well it's supported. So that's why you saw that other list, right? When I came over here, hold on, let's get you over to that list. It's somewhere here. There it is. These are the ones I would recommend looking at, right? When we're talking about image compression, right? So the next question is, what are the main differences between managed WordPress and managed WooCommerce? I have managed WordPress and have just signed up for managed Woo. I think you're talking specifically about Liquid Web. So the main difference between managed WordPress and managed WooCommerce, there's a couple. Managed WordPress is a platform for multiple sites. Managed WooCommerce is a per site solution. Managed WordPress, it gives you the best you need to host and manage WordPress websites. You can install WooCommerce on that and keep going just fine, but managed WooCommerce was designed to be the total solution for e-commerce. So we haven't talked at all about segmentation, analytics. There's a whole bunch of other things we brought, cart abandonment and follow-up. There's a bunch of stuff we've done over there so that you can take a look at that and go, oh, wow, that's really driven to help you close more deals, sell more stuff, run that way. So if you're a brand new store, Managed WordPress may be a great place to just install WooCommerce and start from there. If you're a store that's generating some amount of revenue, you really probably want to look at our Managed WooCommerce hosting offering, right? All right. What about a live chat type plugin? Yes, those work. And the real trick to the live chat is the training of the people, right? So I know some companies that use a live chat and then they outsource it to someone else who doesn't know anything about the product. And so then you're just like, well, let me see what I can answer. What you want is to make sure your people are trained, right, to use that, because that chat window can be like, people ask silly questions like, does this shirt come in blue? You're like, really? All you had to do was go to the shirt page and look at the drop down. But the reality is, right, you could say, yes, here's the link to the blue variant, right? And then they go and buy, right? Or they say, hey, I'm wondering about this thing. And if they know how to shape that conversation, they can drive towards conversion, right? So you just want to be thinking about that. Last question as we wrap up here is, was this webinar recorded, right? And will the recording be available afterward? And the answer is yes, it was recorded, and yes, you'll be able to see it after. So that's it for now. Once again, my name is Chris Lema, and I'm the VP of Products over at Liquid Web. I run our Managed WordPress and Managed WooCommerce products as well. And in case you didn't catch it, if you want to check out our Managed WooCommerce hosting, by all means, send me an email at chris.lema@liquidweb.com. I'd be more than happy to hook you up with a coupon and get you to check it out. And with that, I'm going to wrap us up and say thank you very much, and we'll see you next month. Take care.